Sponsorship, an ongoing journey. Chapter 5, page 145. The journey continues. For many of us, our first truly spiritual connection to another human being occurs when we open up and share honestly with our sponsors. The support and love we receive when we walk together on our journey through the 12 steps helps to free us from self-centered fear that lies at the core of our disease. Sponsorship offers us a pathway to change and a bridge to develop other relationships. Addiction robs us of the ability to relate. Recovery restores our connection to ourselves and the world. We now have the freedom to live a life of meaning. From the goodwill that forms the foundation both of the NA symbol and of sponsorship, we are able to grow in our relationships with self, society, service, and God. Section entitled A Universal Program, Self, Society, Service, and God, page 146. By staying clean and living the program, many of us discover that we are freed from the defects that plagued us during our active addiction. We learn to live responsibly, amending old behavior and seeking to understand others by forgiving them and ourselves. No longer alone, we face some of our greatest fears and remain vigilant against self-destruction. Gradually, with the help of our higher power, our sponsor, and other members in the program, our spirits awaken and we begin to heal. Quote, "My sponsor has shown me how to step outside of myself. This has helped me in all areas of my life. I realize that the world doesn't always revolve around me. Today, I have the ability to focus on something and someone other than me. My sponsor has also helped me to stand in my own truth and to share my truth without attacking someone else. I've learned tact. My sponsor pointed these things out in a loving and caring way without being too hard on me. Because of what I've learned from my sponsor, I've developed a healthy sense of self, and this has affected my whole family. I've been able to pass this along to my daughter, who now has her own sense of self-confidence." Close quote. Another quote, page 147. "My sponsor has been instrumental in helping me to form a relationship with my partner that is built on integrity, sincerity, and love. My sponsor's willingness to share what he knows, to assist me with working the steps, and his honesty about my recovery all have helped to shape my relationship. He has never offered to be a marriage counselor and has always kept the focus on my recovery, not my relationship. I now know that I must continue to do the footwork if I am to grow in my recovery. A byproduct of this work is that my relationship with my partner has grown stronger. We are often amazed that someone really wants to help us. When we reach out for help, we demonstrate our commitment to Narcotics Anonymous. In return, we begin to feel deep, unconditional love for and acceptance of others, and we want to share this feeling of humility with someone else. And so the circle of sponsorship continues as we sponsor our sponsee. We want to give back what has been given to us." Quote, "Being a good sponsor has helped me to be a better parent. I learned how to be compassionate and understanding and to look at people differently. I learned that life is about being happy, joyous, and free, not about being down or downtrodden. I now look at myself as someone with frailties who is human. My sponsor has been a role model, helping me to look at some of the core issues in my life." Close quote. Another quote, "I got clean as a teenager, and it was very difficult to sit in a meeting and get honest with what was going on. It was tough for me to reach out. My sponsor is older than me, and he has been involved in a long-term relationship, owns his own business, and is very committed to the program. After I experienced a failed relationship in my early recovery, I watched how my sponsor practiced the principles of the program as he interacted with his wife. He was stable, and I just knew he was going to stay clean and in recovery. I needed to rely on someone who believed in what he told me. I could tell this just from the way he lived his life. I have a sponsor today who believes in Narcotics Anonymous, the 12 steps, and me. Our relationship is truly a gift." Page 148. Close quote. Sometimes, through our struggles in sponsorship, we gain a greater understanding of humility. We find that we grow from all aspects of this relationship, from the uplifting experiences we share, as well as the challenging or difficult times we may go through. Part of the lesson sponsorship teaches us is to stop placing unrealistic expectations on the people in our lives. We come to realize that although we are never really alone, no one person can always be there for us. However, no matter where we are, we always have our higher power and the principles of the program. Through NA, we are given the freedom to choose who and what is best for our own personal needs. Quote, "Sponsorship has been an enriching experience for me. In the early days, because NA was just developing in my country, I was desperate to have other members. My expectations were high and I was rigid. Through sponsorship, I have learned how to be flexible. I have learned a lot about my defects and have come to accept myself. I have started to learn about unconditional love with my sponsees. Being a sponsor has helped me to counter my self-centeredness. My sponsees know me and they feel very comfortable challenging me. I love the two-way component of the sponsorship relationship and the we component of this program. Close quote. Page 149. Quote, when I entered the rooms of NA, I was spiritually dead, insane, depressed, and had a completely unmanageable life. My marriage was on the rocks, my children were neglected, and somehow survived in spite of me. Today I am a recovering addict, a good mother, a friend, a student, and a sponsor. I have a happy marriage, I work diligently at my job, and I'm an active member at my church. The most significant part of my recovery is the serenity and sanity I feel within, and the maturity with which I can now navigate through life, much of which was made possible through the help of my sponsor, the 12 steps, and my higher power. That doesn't mean others haven't been there to help, but my sponsor was and continues to be an instrumental part of my recovery. Close quote. Another quote, I feel that service in Narcotics Anonymous benefits me more than any other people I try to help. Our basic text states that the ultimate weapon for recovery is the recovering addict, which reminds me of a statement my sponsor tells me when I become self-centered and self-obsessed. When all else seems to be failing, work with a newcomer. I have found that when I humble myself to work the spiritual program of giving with no other motive but to help another addict, I open myself to the profound gifts that NA has for the taking. Close quote. We learn from sponsorship that relationships are never quite the way we imagine them. Sponsorship teaches us that working through real problems yields rewards that are profoundly rich and fulfilling. We take our new, more realistic understanding of relationships into the world as we work, play, and love. We start to appreciate people for who they are, not for who we want them to be. We accept ourselves for who we are and recognize the value of what we have to contribute. Page 150. Our gratitude to our higher power and NA speaks when we put into practice the principles we learn in sponsorship. Quote, I never had any meaningful relationships during my active addiction. My relationships were always superficial, and my motives unclear. The first time I actually dated was when I came into NA. Since I started working with my sponsor, I've learned to check my motives. I've learned about commitment and how to be vulnerable and selfless. Through sponsorship, I got a chance to become a me of a different nature. One of the biggest milestones was at my daughter's wedding. Her stepfather and I walked down the aisle with my daughter as we both gave her away in marriage. Close quote. Another quote. My sponsor has helped me learn how to be a good wife. She would tell me to call her first and tell her the things I wanted to tell my husband. I had such trouble trusting men, and I've had a ton of old behaviors that she helped me to work on. I've learned how to follow through with commitments through sponsorship. So I've learned how to follow through with commitments. Through sponsorship, I've learned how not to be a doormat and how to respect myself. Close quote. Another quote. My first sponsor was very God-reliant and had a deep, meaningful relationship with her higher power. She made God seem so real and personal. I definitely wanted what she had, so I realized that I had to choose to do what she did in order to get it. I began praying and meditating on a regular basis and became willing to follow any direction she gave me to develop the special relationship. Part of her direction was to go to 90 meetings in 90 days and go straight home, no socializing, to spend an hour alone with God. This meant no television, radio, music, books, telephone, etc., just God and me. This direction was amazing. It worked for me. By the time I was through with the 90 days, I had a relationship with the God of my understanding, and He was as real to me as bread on the table. This gave me the foundation I have today. While I don't have the same sponsor I had then, my sponsor today is also God-reliant and continues to give me direction to practice my faith each day. Page 151. The God of my understanding works in various ways, and the first language of my higher power is silence, so I need to be still and listen to nature, others, and especially my sponsor. My experience has shown that if I keep my priorities, God, NA, and family, in order, everything else will be okay. Close quote. Section entitled, The Circle of Sponsorship. We soon come to realize that we cannot keep this remarkable gift of recovery without giving it away. We want to share the hope of living a fulfilling and rich life with those who seek to follow the same path as us. We can do this with sponsorship. Practicing selfless service not only benefits our efforts at living a clean life, but also helps to strengthen our desire to stay in recovery. In sharing our experience and hope with another addict, we help to fortify the spirit of the Narcotics Anonymous program. Over and over again, our experience bears out what we heard in meetings from the beginning. When we ask for help, we offer another addict the opportunity to give, and when we reach out to an addict in need, we get the greatest rewards of all. Sponsorship can be where we learn to practice our new principles, and it is the relationship in which our gratitude speaks most clearly. The spiritual nourishment we receive when we give to others is one of the reasons we choose to stay in NA. Invariably, when we give freely of what we have found in recovery, we get back so much more. End of sponsorship book, page 151.